tutorial 5-4 to walk you through Python code. Now Python code does not allow for a do-while loop. It only has for loops, which we'll do in lab 6, and also while loops in lab 5. So you'll want to read the steps 1 through 17 very closely in order to code the bottle return program. Now to get you started, I'm going to create a basic structure where we have main, which is our main module, and then I always add my call to main so that I do not forget to add that later. And our modules will be in here, and what we want inside of main will be here. So I'm going to start by tabbing that over. Now we're going to follow this very closely and almost exactly to how Raptor flowcharts. So we're going to create a variable called endProgram, and we're going to initialize that to the word no. Now our while structure is while endProgram is equal to no colon, and again no is a string, so you have to have quotation marks. And then the things that we want to go on inside of there are going to be our function calls or our module calls. So to get you started on total bottles, what we're going to do is call get bottles, and this function is going to return total bottles. So we'll say total bottles is equal to get bottles, such as that. And we're going to have another function call and then another function call, and they'll pass different arguments. So again, you want to follow that very closely. Now to control this loop, we're just going to simply ask endProgram. Now endProgram is a string, so raw input, and we want to ask, do you want to end the program? Enter yes or no. And that gets put into the endProgram variable, and that controls whether or not your loop is going to process. So that would be the end of the while loop. Now you want to watch your tabs very closely, because whatever you want in a loop is going to align, the tabs are going to line up, similar to how our functions and modules work. So here's our module that will get our bottles, and this happens to not accept arguments. It's not necessary. But if we're following our flowchart, we started by just simply initializing our variables. And we have to also do this in Python. Otherwise, as we run the program multiple times, the variables will accumulate and not be reset, and they'll have no value. So we want to do the same thing that we did inside of Raptor by taking total bottles, today bottles, and equaling them to 0. And then our counter was set equal to 1. So while counter is less than or equal to 7, and we can write this in many different ways. What we want to do is take in today bottles. And then we're going to accumulate, again, exactly what we did inside of Raptor. And then the easy thing to forget is to change our counter. But we have to add 1 to it so that eventually this becomes false, and we break out of the loop. And the last thing that we want to do in this module is return total bottles, because in our function call we're accepting it. Now when you end your loop, again, you'll notice how I tabbed back, and again the reason for that was so that it wouldn't return total bottles on every iteration of the loop. Now again, you're going to continue this, follow the steps in the lab very closely. You'll have additional function calls here, and then you'll have additional functions down here that will accept arguments that are necessary, and also print out your variables.